Chapter 12, Elia Interference. The lock on the west entrance was older than I remembered. 3 rakes, 1 twist. On the third pass it gave, a soft catch-click that seemed louder than it should have been in the cavernous dark. For a moment I stood there with my hand on the knob, breath shallow, heart punching in the space between beats. My fingers didn't shake. Not exactly. It was more like my body lagged a half-second behind my intentions, as though I was piloting myself through fog. I told myself it wasn't theft. You can't steal what you've built. The corridor stretched out ahead of me, unlit except for the throb of the emergency exit sign at the far end. Red, dark, red again. The light painted the linoleum in rose-shaded pulses, as if the building itself had a heartbeat. My badge would have worked, but I didn't want a trail. Nothing in the system that could be traced back to me. Just my own hands and a lockpick set I hadn't used in years. The cold room was quieter than I expected. The air seal hissed when the keypad disengaged, and the scent rushed out to meet me: ethanol, frost, a faint tang of plastic. I moved on instinct. First, remove Will's scans. Next, delete the digital backups. I felt a faint pang of guilt as I used Marlowe's login details. I'd seen him enter his password 100 times or more. But my son came first. Finally, I entered the clinical room. 3rd rack, 2nd shelf, the box with the laminated corner. My hands knew the choreography. Quinacrine, pentosan polysulfate, antibody cultures that had never been cleared for human use. I lifted them one by one, careful not to clink the vials against each other, and slid them into the padded sleeve inside my coat. They pressed cold against my ribs, colder than the air. I felt the way a smuggler must feel, except I wasn't smuggling. I was salvaging, saving what was left of myself. The seizures had been closing in. Not grand mal, not yet, but enough to remind me the leash was shortening. And the absences, the places where something else stepped forward and used my voice, were growing longer. Sometimes minutes, once nearly an hour. If I waited for approval, if I went through channels, if I checked myself into a hospital, I'd be surrounded. And by the time the forms moved across desks, there might not be enough of me left to save. So I took back my own work. The house felt like a hollow when I returned. I locked the door behind me, latched every window, and drew the curtains tight. I even switched off the kitchen light, though no one could see inside from the street. Paul would still be teaching his evening class. Will should be at chess club. The silence was heavy, not the comforting kind. The kind that carries the memory of voices just gone. I went straight to the basement. The lab down there hadn't been used in years, not seriously apart from school science projects for Will. It smelled of dust more than ethanol, the air still with a kind of museum quiet. I brushed my hand over the old bench. A thin layer of powder lifted into the light before dispersing. The centrifuge startled to life when I flipped the switch, humming faithfully, ready like it had been waiting for me. I laid everything out in a line on sterile drape. Syringes in paper sleeves, alcohol swabs, gloves. The antibody tray, sweating faint frost. The vials lined like soldiers. My breath felt too loud. My temples kept tightening and loosening, as if a fist was flexing inside my skull. It was almost a relief to sink into the mechanics. Calculate dose, draw the solution, tap the barrel to send the air to the top. The rituals of science never waver, even when the scientist does. I rolled up my sleeve. My hand hovered over the crook of my arm. The needle gleamed under the single overhead bulb. And then the stair above me creaked. "Mom." Will's voice. My blood turned to ice, syringe frozen in hand. My first thought wasn't about being caught, it was the word. He had never said it before, not out loud. The sound of it seemed to land on me with physical weight. "I thought you were chess club." My words stammered out in fragments, my body shifting instinctively to shield the supplies. "It was canceled." His voice was flat but not confused. He stepped down far enough that the light caught his face. His expression wasn't shock, it was anger. "You were going to do it without telling me." My mouth opened, useless. "It's not." "Don't," he snapped, coming another step closer. "Don't tell me it's nothing. I know what's going on." You don't, I said, but the words rang hollow. Yes, I do. His voice cracked on the edge like the words were tearing on the way out. That day after the clinic, when I touched your hand, I felt something try to get in my head, like static but alive, and it couldn't. I heard you in the office, too. I don't know what it is, but I know it's in you. I've been watching it take pieces of you away. He was breathing fast now. I went through your papers, he said, slower, deliberate now. I used to think I was the odd one out because I'm autistic, because I don't do the social Wi-Fi thing everyone else does. But now it's what? Now I'm the immune freak too. Another way to not belong. My hands trembled. I set the syringe down, crossed the space between us, and put my hands on his shoulders. Will, look at me. You belong here, with me. With Paul, always. That doesn't change. His eyes searched mine, hungry for proof. And in that moment, I saw him not as the boy who had arrived at our door 8 years ago, but as he was now, 17, sharp, intuitive, becoming a man whether I was ready or not. After a long beat, he nodded once. You're trying to remove it. They won't like that. Let me help. His words hung in the air like smoke. What do you mean, Will? You're not infected. The scans prove it. I know, he said simply. It's hard to describe, but I don't hear them, but I sense them, their intentions. It's like an angry beehive, and Mum, I notice the glitches. Glitches, I repeated, my mind spinning. Like I said, it's hard to describe, but if you try to do it, your body won't let you do it. Something bad will happen. Will's voice cracked under urgency. I had a flashback of my lips, moving against my own volition, and shuddered. I didn't want him near it. Every instinct in me screamed to keep him away. But I also knew the truth. If I slipped, if it took me fully, he would be in the most danger. So I let him. I taught him how to swab the site, how to steady the vein, how to hold his fingers light but sure. He listened with the intensity he reserved for real stakes, shoulders square, jaw locked. My hands shook hard as I prepared the treatment. My head throbbed. The syringe wobbled between my fingers. At one point, the vial slipped. My heart plummeted, but Will caught it before it hit the ground. We exchanged a look, silent, steady. I'll take over, Mum, he said. The word landed again, softer this time, but no less seismic. I kissed the top of his head and nodded. I sat on the chair, my hands gripping the armrests. Something inside me whispered to knock his hands away. Will stepped forward. No, stop, I gasped. I can feel it, I need restraint. After duct tapping my arms to the chair, we were ready. The pressure on my mind was intense, and I felt wet trickle down my philtrum. Do it, I gasped. He guided the needle in. The bite was cold, then burning. At first, nothing changed. If anything, the pressure built, swelling behind my eyes, filling my skull with a low electric hum. It rose and rose like 1,000 wasps crawling inside my skull. My vision blurred, my jaw clenched. And then, something loosened. The vice around my skull eased. The background buzz, the constant static I hadn't realized was always there, thinned. I gasped, waiting for the pressure, the urges to return. But they didn't. They're further away, I whispered. My own voice sounded alien to me. I can think again. They're still there, but separate. I didn't think it would work this fast. I gasped as I sagged back in the chair. Will sat on the stool opposite, eyes fixed on me, cataloging every breath, every twitch, ready to act if I faltered. When I didn't, he cut me free. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a passenger in my own head. Before I could say anything, Will pulled me into a tight, uncharacteristic hug. Both our shoulders shook as I held him. You didn't just help, sweetheart, I said, my throat tightened around the words. You saved me, Will. He didn't answer, but he didn't let go either. The basement light flickered once overhead. The house groaned like it was settling. And for a fragile moment, the signal was quiet.
Hello, this is Miss Grimm. Thank you very much for listening to my channel. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my work, and stay tuned for more.